The Parched Planet Paradox. How droughts and rising seas are connected. The drought-ocean cycle, a dangerous dance between land and sea. Picture this. Continents are drying at an alarming rate, sending fresh water rushing into oceans, while coastal regions face annihilation. Welcome to Earth's new normal, a paradox where drought and rising seas amplify each other's destructive power. The latest evidence? Freshwater losses from land now outpace melting ice sheets as the primary driver of global sea level rise. Let's unpack why this matters and what it means for our future. Groundwater overuse, intensified evaporation from heat waves, and climate-fueled droughts have drastically reduced accessible freshwater over the past 2 decades, according to a recent study published in the journal Science Advances. This continental drying phenomenon has shifted global water distribution dramatically, with land-based water losses now exceeding ice melt contributions to sea level rise, a shift that caught even scientists off guard. But here's the twist. These losses aren't just a distant threat, they're already reshaping agriculture and drinking water access worldwide. Imagine your community struggling to irrigate crops in regions like California's Central Valley or Mexico's breadbasket areas. Jay Famiglietti, a sustainability expert at Arizona State University and study co-author, paints a stark picture. If water management practices don't change, food security could collapse in agrarian hotspots. The research warns that 75% of humanity resides in regions with shrinking freshwater reserves, a reality already manifesting in Mexico City's water shortages and dwindling Colorado River Basin resources. Here's where the narrative splits. Some researchers argue continental drying now drives sea level rise more than glacier melt. But not everyone's convinced. Alexander Sims, a UC Santa Barbara geologist not involved in the study, questions whether groundwater loss has overtaken ice melt's contributions. Yet he acknowledges the irreversible nature of these changes. Water removed from continents eventually flows to oceans, mostly through atmospheric circulation. This redistribution isn't just temporary, it could leave ecosystems altered for millennia. The study tracks this water migration using NASA satellite data over 22 years, revealing alarming patterns. Drought-prone zones spread by an area twice the size of California annually since 2014, merging into mega-drying regions like the U.S. Southwest and Central America. These areas face compounding disasters. Coastal insurance markets collapse as floods intensify, while inland regions battle crop failures. So why should this crisis matter to you? 3 key impacts come into play. 1. Agricultural collapse. Regions reliant on groundwater irrigation, like California's San Joaquin Valley, risk losing capacities to feed populations. Coastal displacement. Rising seas threaten housing markets and heritage sites, exemplified by the Florida flood insurance crisis. 3. Global water inequality. Sub-Saharan and Middle Eastern nations face disproportionate risks as freshwater concentrations dwindle. But here's the controversy. Sideline the IC debate for a moment. Even proponents acknowledge the study's data doesn't fully resolve attribution or its regional implications. Should policy focus on drought mitigation or coastal protection? The answer lies in understanding how water cycle disruptions create both threats simultaneously. Hamlington, a NASA scientist involved in the data collection, emphasizes the need for real-time monitoring. Tracking terrestrial water storage helps predict future droughts and floods. But until governments incentivize groundwater conservation and climate adaptation, these crises will worsen. The study's conclusion: climate change has thrown Earth's water system into chaotic imbalance. While scientists debate the hierarchy of culprits, one fact remains unassailable. Humanity's relationship with water must evolve fast. As continents dry and oceans swell, the race to adapt has never been more urgent. Do you agree with the study's claims or side with skeptical researchers? Could the focus on continental drying overshadow ice melt risks? Share your perspectives below. We want to hear your take on this pivotal environmental crossroads. The global water crisis just got worse. New study reveals unprecedented freshwater loss. Imagine a world where the very water we depend on is vanishing faster than we can blink. Sounds like science fiction? A groundbreaking global study reveals this is our reality. Freshwater is disappearing at a pace that defies imagination, threatening the foundation of human survival, agriculture, and even the stability of our planet. But here's where it gets controversial. The root cause isn't just climate change. It's our own unsustainable habits. Let's dive into the details of this planetary crisis and why it demands your attention. New research from Arizona State University, published in Science Advances, paints a sobering picture. Over 2 decades of satellite data show Earth's continents have lost unprecedented amounts of fresh water since 2002. The study identifies 4 massive mega drying regions in the northern hemisphere, driven by a deadly trio: climate change, overuse of groundwater, and relentless droughts. These areas are expanding at a rate equivalent to 2 Californias annually, and the drying is accelerating faster than wet regions are growing. This reversal of natural hydrological patterns could spell disaster for billions. Why should you care? A staggering 75% of the global population resides in 101 countries, experiencing freshwater loss for 22 years straight. As the UN projects a population boom over the next half-century, freshwater availability is shrinking. Jay Familietti, the study's lead, warns this is an all-hands-on-deck moment. We're draining ancient groundwater reserves like they're infinite ATMs, he says. But these resources aren't renewable. We're playing a dangerous game of financial bankruptcy with our planet's water. The data comes from NASA and German satellites, GRAC and GRACE-VO, tracking changes in terrestrial water storage. Every drop of water on land, from soil moisture to glaciers. Rishikesh Chandampoka, the study's lead author, likens groundwater to a trust fund we're depleting for short-term gains. We're not recharging aquifers during wet seasons, and we're digging into glaciers as if they're never going to melt, he explains. This isn't sustainable. The tipping point arrived around 2014-15 during a mega El Nino event. Climate extremes intensified. Groundwater use spiked, and continental drying outpaced glacier melt. Even more alarming, drying zones flipped from the southern to northern hemisphere post-2014, while wet regions did the opposite. The study highlights 4 critical mega drying zones. 1. Southwestern North America and Central America. From Phoenix to Mexico City, this region includes vital farmland and cities already struggling with water shortages. 2. Alaska and northern Canada. Melting glaciers and permafrost threaten food production in British Columbia and Saskatchewan. 3. Northern Russia. Warming is accelerating snow and permafrost loss in high-latitude regions. 4. Middle East, North Africa, MENA, Pan-Eurasia. Desert cities like Dubai and Baghdad face existential threats, while agricultural hubs in Ukraine and China's North China Plain teeter on the brink. The study's most shocking revelation? Groundwater depletion contributes more to sea level rise than Greenland and Antarctica combined. This challenges long-held climate models, which didn't predict tropical regions would stay wetter while continents dry. We need continuous satellite monitoring and global data sharing to tackle this, Chandan Pokar insists. Without it, we're flying blind. So what's the solution? The research team calls for urgent policy to curb groundwater overuse, protect remaining resources, and invest in sustainable water management. International cooperation is key. After all, water doesn't recognize borders. As Familietti puts it, we can't mitigate climate change overnight, but we can stop draining the planet's water. The choice is ours. This isn't just a scientific warning. It's a wake-up call for humanity. The World Bank is already preparing a report to translate these findings into actionable solutions. But here's the question. Are we ready to change our habits? Or are we let future generations inherit a parched planet? Share your thoughts below, because the debate over water's future is just beginning. The invisible crisis, groundwater depletion, and how communities fight back. What if the very ground we stand on is a ticking clock? Deep below our feet, ancient reservoirs of water, once thought to be infinite, are vanishing faster than we can blink. This isn't just a story about a village, it's a mirror reflecting humanity's complex relationship with the planet. Let's start in Bhairavpur, a place where the soil used to sing with life, and now in the silence of drying wells, we hear a warning. Once, Bhairavpur's fields shimmered with emerald crops, and its water tasted like the memory of monsoons. For generations, villagers relied on hidden aquifers, vast underground lakes formed by centuries of rainfall. These aquifers were a lifeline, a secret pact between humans and nature. But today, the land is parched. Wells that once gushed freely now cough up dust. And farmers like Ramesh, a man in his 50s, face a cruel reality. The water that once fed his grandfather's dreams now barely keeps his children from starving. The shift began in the 1990s. When motorized pumps made groundwater seem limitless, governments incentivized farmers to drill deeper and grow thirsty crops like sugarcane, promising prosperity. But here's where it gets controversial. Was this progress or a slow-motion disaster? The truth is, we treated groundwater as a bottomless well, ignoring the science that warned us. Satellite data later revealed the scale of the crisis, shrinking aquifers from California to China, from the Arabian Peninsula to Bharatpur. And this is the part most people miss. Depletion isn't just about overuse. It's about neglect. Unlike rivers, groundwater is invisible. Policies dismissed it as a free resource, and its decline became a quiet crisis. In Bharatpur, the collapse was gradual. Shallow wells failed first, then deeper ones. Electricity bills soared, crops withered, and water disputes erupted. Even neighbors turned against each other. Ramesh's daughter, Meera, returned from university with a different perspective. She studied environmental science, driven by the changes she'd seen as a child. When she showed her father data proving the water table to drop 40 feet in 15 years, he felt the weight of generations. We had no choice, he admitted. The rains failed, and the government wanted sugarcane. Meera didn't blame them. She proposed solutions: check dams to trap monsoon rain, switching to drought-resistant crops, and recharging aquifers. We can't undo the damage, she said, but we can slow it. Elsewhere, similar battles unfolded. In Rajasthan, communities revived ancient johads, rainwater harvesting structures, to let water seep into the ground. In California, farmers experimented with dry farming. Yet the fight remains fierce. At a town meeting, Meera argued that every liter of water drawn without replenishment is a loan from the future. Some scoffed, but others listened. Ramesh chose to act. Over time, Bharatpur transformed. They built percolation ponds, shifted to millet and pulses, and even the government launched a groundwater recharge project. Still, the path was rocky. Erratic rains and the lure of deep wells made progress fragile. Yet conversations changed. People began seeing groundwater as a living system, not a commodity. Ramesh, once a skeptic, now watches his daughter walk by the pond they built. I used to think water came from pipes and pumps, he says. You show me it comes from patience and care. Meera smiles. The earth remembers kindness. Even the water does. The world beneath us holds more than soil and stone. It holds history, ancient rains trapped in silence, and a future waiting for our choices. Groundwater isn't just water. It's a legacy. And if we're to survive, we must listen to what lies beneath. And here's a question for you. Should we prioritize economic survival over ecological balance? Or can we find a middle ground? Share your thoughts. Is it time to rewrite the rules of water use? Or are we already too late?